Good morning. Before work starts, I was going to start print out of my third Joker, but this one's going to be for sale. Got the beds coming up to 60. Um, this was the previous print, the servo cover for the 3DLabs razor blade, but this was for the servo cover shells. So they got printed out pretty quick. So today we're going to start with doing the V-tail because I've got green filament still in. So rather than having to pull it out, I may as well start printing out the V-tail. I'm going to do the fuselage in black, but the V-tail in green, that luminous green, which is pretty cool. Going to be a 2mm brim. In fact, I might up that to 3mm because this is quite a tall part. And it's going to have no bottom layer, so that would make sense. Yeah, it's going to have no. It's going to have one wall. It's going to have no top and bottom layers, and which is typical for the wing sections and for the tail plane, because you want it to be light, you want it to be strong. And then I'm going to set the slicing tolerance to exclusive. I'm going to leave the adaptive layers off because it's not a complex curve coming vertically. And I'll show you how that adaptive layer works when I do the wing root section, which is when that comes into play a little bit more. Everything else is the same, 230 at 60 at 102 flow, 6mm retract with all the usual stuff that I've covered before. Travel speed I think is still down to 50mm per second, so it's 6 retraction. Extra prime 0.685 with Z-hop. Z-hop isn't really required with these single parts, but if you print a second one, and let's put the second one down the side, that's when Z-hop comes into its own. So let's open. That was fuselage part 1 left. Let's open tail, or rather tail part 1 left. Let's open tail part 1 right. Let's just make sure that's oriented. Yeah, it's pretty good. You can then right click and say arrange all models. That looks okay. Let's just have a quick look through. Let's slice it and have a look through the two. There's just two parts to the V-tail, and this is using a modern. I just come across here and I'll show you what I mean. You can see these sections have a kind of dovetail mechanism. Now you could use a top layer on here, so it would fill in this layer here. It would give it additional strength, but it isn't essential. I discovered a little bit of lack of material around here with this line, but it's not sufficient. All it's doing is acting as a guide, so the outer skin can join up when you glue them together, and it forms a bit of an extra stronger bond between the parts as you glue them in, so they snap in, which is quite a nice design. And then looking through the let's zoom back out. Looking through the material, I've set exclusive, so that's turned green, so it's the most accurate. We see all the way down to the brim down the bottom, right? So that looks good to go. I'm happy. It doesn't really matter that they're close together, but it's quite useful because the head is moving less distance, so effectively it's cutting down on time. The further apart the objects, obviously the more time. You can have obviously multiple objects on the bed, And these two are the same, so I don't need to set individual settings for them. And so that is good to go. Let's go and print it. All right, so bed's already up to temp. Obviously the head will now come up to 230, and then we'll see how those come out. All right, catch you later, guys.